Hi, I'm Ernie Zor, and I'll be narrating this Puritas Springs Software demonstration video of our 2019 Ohio Spousal Support Calculator. Of course, spousal support is a hot topic due to tax changes, mainly the treatment of spousal support, and those changes became effective January 1st, 2019. So let's get started. Now, it would be a waste of time for me to repeat what's in the earlier spousal support demonstration videos. If you want to know the recommended method of working with this application, watch the earlier videos, because this one will be focusing only on what's new and different. However, I don't think it's repeating too much, at least to mention that the left side of the screen is the outline for preparing a marital estate analysis. You complete the general information worksheet first, then enter income through the 3 income screens, then expenses, and so on, following the 7 steps shown here on the left. Let's start with the general information worksheet, and you'll notice that the first thing about the general information worksheet is that it's been gender neutralized to parent A and parent B. Now, I understand that the legislators were considering parent X and parent Y, but thought better of it due to the implications. At any rate, I also see toward the bottom of the form the first evidence of the latest Tax Reform Act, and that is that the dependency exemption checkboxes in the children's section are gone because there are no longer any personal exemptions allowed. All that remains to be said about this worksheet is the importance of names and birth dates of the children, especially for completing the child support worksheet. It's a must that the name and the birth date of every minor child be included here in the children's section. Let's move on to the income section. The wage screens are the same as they've been in prior years. You'll be taking information usually from a W-2 and entering it directly into the facsimiles that you see on your screen right now. I've got a comment to make. I'm moving along right now to the taxable income, and I've got a comment to make about the taxable income screen. If spousal support is not taxable, why is there an entry? Let's go down here to line 11. Why is there an entry for alimony at all? And there are 2 answers. First, although we're applying all of the 2019 tax changes that we are aware of, the IRS doesn't publish the 2019 forms and instructions until December of 2019. And therefore, the latest forms that are available at this time are the 2018 models, and those still have an alimony line. Second, the old tax treatment will continue to apply to orders that are issued before January 1st, 2019, and also the old tax treatment will apply to orders modified on or after the 1st, so long as there is not specific language in the order stating that the new tax law applies. I'm paraphrasing that, and I hope I got it right. Anyway, speaking of the forms, the IRS separated the old familiar 2-page format into 5 pages, and that was done as part of the, you guessed it, the Paperwork Reduction Act. It sounds silly when you say it that way, but I'm sure it works when you look at the big picture. We've kept most of the layout of the old form while adopting the line arrangement of the new Schedules 1 through 5. So our taxable income screen looks like the old tax form, but we did merge the income sections of the new tax forms so that we could all fit it on one screen and in one printout. But it's line for line, the new form, just cut and pasted into the old familiar format. If you're wondering why we have a dependent section when there are no longer dependency exemptions, the answer is that dependents still count for purposes of determining head of household filing status, the child tax credit, the child care credit, and the earned income credit. With that said, let's move on to the last income section, which is non-taxable income and miscellaneous income. Because it's no longer a tax consideration, here's where you'll find spousal support when you're using the 2019 setting. It's here because it's income for the marital estate considerations, but not for income tax purposes. In this regard, you may notice that prior versions of the Spousal Support Calculator defaulted to the latest year with available tax information. So the 2018 version, for example, defaulted to 2017 law because it was the latest form set that was available at the time. You could switch to 2018, but it defaulted to 2017. Well, we've switched that around. The new version defaults to 2019 tax law, even though complete tax and form information is not yet available. And, you know, it really makes sense to do it that way because the taxability of spousal support is such a significant factor, and that's a 2019 issue. So we want to default it to that. We're going to move along now to the expenses and taxes section. The personal living expense form that you see on your screen, I don't think it's changed at all. The tax adjustments and credits page, which I will bring up on my screen right now, that also parallels the one, it's pretty much the same, but it has the changes that parallel the ones that I mentioned in the taxable income section. So all the new adjustment and credit schedules are organized on one page, just like the old form did. And of course, another thing to note is that spousal support may or may not be included in the adjustments section, depending on whether you're applying 2018 or 2019 tax law. Schedule A isn't going to apply to as many taxpayers as it once did because of the increase in the standard deduction and the new limits placed on Schedule A expenses. I expect that unless a taxpayer has significant interest expense, he or she probably won't even be filing a Schedule A, and I think that you'll find the same thing almost applies to the alternative minimum tax. It's going to apply to fewer and fewer returns in the future. In all other respects, these forms are essentially the same as they have been in prior years. So let's move on to the child support section. Child support, okay, you know what? I'm not even going to cover that except to say that we've included the new child support worksheets, the ones that became effective March 28th of 2019. The reason I'm not going to cover this is because if you want to know more about the new child support worksheets, we've got 2 short YouTube videos that demonstrate the new worksheets, as well as 2 other short YouTube videos that do a line-by-line comparison of the old and the new worksheets. So that's really all I need to say here about child support. Let's go to assets and debts. I never spend any time on this section in all the prior videos that we've done, but it's a pretty neat function, so let's just take a quick look. I see that Brandy, one of our technicians, has entered a bunch of assets and debts, and you can see that there's a total of the assets distributed to each party, and that organization is a great thing all by itself. But what's neat is that while you're testing different equitable property distributions, you can drag assets back and forth and get a dynamically updated total. I'm going to do that right now. Let's take the 2008 Kia Armante, and we will just, what are we going to do? Whoops. That happened. I didn't even see that happen. There we go. I wasn't doing that too well. And you could move it into, you could just drag the individual assets and debts back and forth between the columns, and the totals at the bottom will update in accordance with where you've moved the property. Like so. I'm moving it back. Okay. And that's all I wanted you to see. With that, I'll proceed now to the spousal support section. In this section, the income, let me close this window. Go to that section. I'm going to bring the income taxes and support and expenses form up on my screen. We've been in the habit of calling it the ITSE form, and it is my favorite one because it puts much of the key information together on one form. You realize that there are 50-odd pages of forms and reports in the spousal support calculator, but as they say in the movies, one ring binds them all. Well, that's a different video, but I should say one form summarizes them all, and that's the one on my screen right now. I went over the ITSE form in the earlier spousal support video, so the only thing to note is that when we toggle back and forth between 2018 and 2019 law, whoops, now we're on 2018 law. And when we toggle back and forth, what you actually notice is that when the screen refreshes, spousal support is being taken in and out of the taxability section and placed in the non-taxable income section, like you would expect, actually. So that's it. I mean, I could do a video for each of the 7 sections that you see in the tree view there, and that may happen. But for purposes of demonstrating some of the new features of the Spousal Support Calculator, that's all I'm going to cover right now. And before I go, I want to mention that if you're interested in law office computing tips like the ones we put in our annual issue of Law Office Computing magazine or in our monthly email newsletter, you may enjoy a book called The Best of Law Office Computing. It's not specific to Puritas Springs products. It covers all subjects that are related to computing in the law office, hence the name. It's got all the best tips from years of back issues, so I'm sure you'll find it entertaining and the tips and hints useful. You can get the ebook at Amazon for only $9 and the paperback for only $12. In conclusion, I want to thank you again for visiting our YouTube channel. I hope we've achieved part of our goal, which is to make your life in the law office a tiny bit easier, and I hope you'll visit us again. Until you do, I wish you all the best, so take care.